should be played at high volume. This should be played at high volume. This should be played at high volume. Preferably in a residential area.
The following thoughts on Happy Hour do not represent Cox Media Group or its sponsoring. Anything you hear may and will be used against you. Thank you. Voted as best local podcast in Tampa Bay by the Creative Loafing. You're listening to Happy Hour. You're tuned in to Happy Hour, an hour where Happy rants about something. Sit back and listen in. Happy Hour is on now. Happy Hour is on now.
Yo, what's up? This is Happy Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppy, and for the next hour, my goal in life is to change the way you think about things. For the next hour, I want my rants and my opinions to broaden your horizon. So once this show ends and you listen for the whole way through, you go, wow, this dude really made me think about things. Wow, Hoppy is a genius. Well, maybe you won't say that, but do call me right now. Please call me. I am really lonely. 856-49-HOPPY. That's 856-49-HOPPY, and I will be sure to take your calls in real time. But the thing is, you got to wait for when I say all phone lines are open, because I do this show by myself online. I don't have a phone screener, so it's hard for me to rant while taking phone calls. So when I say all phone lines are open, call me. 856-49-HOPPY. Also, maybe you're shy, but you want to get in contact with me via the show. Tweet at me at Ryan Hoppy Radio. You can email me after the show, ryanhoppyradio@gmail.com. And get the Hoppy Radio app in the Google Play and iPhone shop. Search up Hoppy Radio, HOPPE Radio, and you can listen anywhere in the world. I don't care if you're in Tampa Bay or Cleveland or Louisville, where I get great listens, or the ROC up in New York. You can listen anywhere at any time via the app, and you can chat me when I'm live. We have so much to get into. And this next topic is really controversial. It's really edgy. And I was debating if I wanted to talk about it. But Laura Burns on Twitter, at the social badass, made me think about it when she responded and said, talk about it. If we don't talk about it, things aren't going to change. So let me get into it. I got to be careful about how I say this. But if we want things to change, you know, in this great country of ours, America, because we sit here and we go, why does rape keep on happening? We sit here and we go, the numbers are going up. The media is giving it attention. But why does it keep on happening? We go, man, how can we change it? There's got to be a way to change the epidemic of rape. The dead air was for a reason. Think about it. I'll let you think about it for 5 seconds as I go into this article from WGNTV.com. No jail time for 18-year-old accused of raping 2 teens. I'm at a loss for words. I don't even know how to approach this rant. Let me read it again for you. And this is from WGN in Chicago. No jail time for 18-year-old accused of raping 2 teens. And we sit here and we go, why does it keep on happening? Because the entitlement is not going away. We give it charges. Like, we find people that aren't as rich as these entitled douchebags. We find them jail time. Or people that aren't as good looking as these entitled douchebags. We give them jail time. Or people that are in their 40s that come off creepy because they raped somebody. We give them jail time. But when it's an 18-year-old athlete, we kind of go, oops. He didn't mean to. He was just acting up in the moment twice. And this is from Boston, Palmer. A Massachusetts teen accused of raping 2 unconscious teens at a house party in April has been sentenced by a judge to 2 years probation. That's it. I'm not saying probation isn't anything, but it's basically, don't act up. We're going to drug test you. Don't get a DUI. Keep being innocent because we found you innocent and you're fine, buddy. Here's a pat on the back. You got away with rape. The case was ordered and continued without a finding for 2 years, meaning if 18-year-old David Becker, this pussy, gets through his probation without any conditions, including not contacting his victims and not doing any booze or drugs, he'll walk away with no conviction and won't have to be a sex offender. What is a sex offender anymore? Can someone explain me the definition of what a sex offender is? I feel like if he would have raped an 11-year-old, we would have crucified him. Or if he was some 40-year-old raping these teens, we would crucify him. But because he's 18 years old and he's young and naive and he's an athlete, we don't see him as the everyday sex offender. Sort of like how when a really hot teacher bangs one of these kids, we don't see him as a sex offender because we have this idea in our head of the everyday sex offender being some guy that lives with his mom that has underage porn or some creepy priest. We see them as sex offenders, but we don't see these pussies like David Becker that take advantage of women. He offended them by taking advantage of them with a sexual crime. To me, maybe it's just me speaking into this microphone and no one agrees with me, but that kind of seems like a sex offender. When you offend them by abusing them with sex and they don't want to have it with you and they're unconscious, that seems like a sex crime. So therefore, he's a sex offender. Here's what his lawyer, this imbecile Thomas Rooke, said. We all make decisions that we regret when we were 17, 18, and 19, and we shouldn't be branded for life. To me, that would make sense if he did a crime that just involves him, but nobody else. Like, let's say he were to get a DUI and crash into a tree. Or let's say he were to throw a drinking party and the house gets trashed, and it's a house that hasn't been bought yet in the neighborhood, because we've all heard about those house parties. To me, that's an 18-year-old being dumb, or an 18-year-old trying to sell weed and gets caught to an undercover cop. That's when you're being a dumb teenager, because we all know when we're teenagers, we do dumb things because we want to be adults. But when you take advantage of women twice, like a pussy, like a scoundrel that can't get women in a normal way, that's not being a 17, 18, or 19-year-old. He should be branded for life for taking advantage of women. What's the difference between being a 40-year-old that takes advantage of two underage teens and a 17, 18, or 19-year-old? He has the same mindset as the 40-year-old, and he's sick in the head. Age shouldn't mean diddly squat. So are you saying if a priest that just got ordained, who's 25 years old, were to attack a woman, he doesn't know what he's doing? But if a priest was 40 or 50, they're guilty. Or if a really good-looking dude like this guy attacks a woman, it's fine. But if some goofy goober like me did it, or some fat, out-of-shape weirdo that sweats a lot did it, crucify them. And we wonder why it keeps on happening, and why these major sources like the Daily Mail, the Huffington Post, WGN, all these local TV markets, they all cover rape, rape, rape. This guy gets away with it. This guy gets away with it. And we wonder why nothing is changing, because we aren't prosecuting these pussy asses like we prosecute the ones that aren't rich, and the ones that aren't entitled, and the ones that aren't good looking, and the ones that aren't athletes. And until we prosecute everybody the same way, nothing will change. And we will sit here and bitch and moan and wonder why nothing is changing. It's not rocket science, people. This isn't trigonometry. This isn't trying to be an astronaut. This is taking advantage of women because you're sick in the head and you're a bitch. Sick of this. So sick of seeing these headlines on my timeline. And a lot of people might not see them because they don't search for the news, because they're not in a media business, or they don't host a podcast. Trust me, this is really prevalent. I just don't talk about it every day because I don't want to have a show about rape where I depress you. But when I see a headline where the lawyer says, we all made decisions we regret, I had to cover this. This scumbag lawyer, Thomas Rooke. F you, buddy. And I'm trying not to be a shock jock and not to be mean. But at some point, you got to say something, man. It's right in front of you. if you prosecute them the same way as anybody else, things might change. Because then the next pretty boy that wants to take advantage of a girl at a house party will go, oh, you see those other cases and how that happened? I don't want to be like them. But there's the entitlement where you know you have the money and the connections. I mean, look at the show Ray Donovan. And if you haven't seen it, watch it and you'll know what I'm talking about. The decision that Becker made was accused of, per documents, he went on the second floor and he attacked two 18-year-old victims after they went to sleep during a party. And the women woke up and they found him assaulting him during finger play and during play south of the border. I'm trying to keep it clean. Basically, finger play and then more when it comes to having sex without intercourse he was doing. Can you imagine the horror of that? Waking up to finger play and waking up to him doing other things to you and you don't want it and you're like, stop. And he keeps on going. Of course I'm going to push this down your throat because the horror of it is what we need to think about. Here's one thing we don't think about. And I just came to realize this recently. I went on a date with a girl that I met on Tinder. Really sweet girl, an absolute sweetheart. But the problem was this. She got gang raped by like 7 guys when she goes to USF, and she got gang raped in a bad neighborhood of Tampa. I had no idea why she was there, but I didn't know this going to the date. And she told me like during the second date, and my heart immediately sank because she had a PTSD moment right in front of me where I was like, you're nice, but I don't want to go out with you again just because I'm busy with work. I just wasn't really seeing anything with her and me. And she goes, that's what all the guys say to me. And she begins freaking out in my car. And I'm like, what's up? And I said her name. And she goes, I got raped by 7 black guys and I'm having a PTSD moment. And she was freaking out in my car. So I hugged her and comforted her. And now we keep in touch just because I feel bad. Here's my point. It seems like, and I've never been raped, so I can't say single-handedly, but I've read about it online. You have PTSD just like if you're in the Army or the Marines. It's not like getting punched in the face or getting shot in the leg or getting into a car crash where you then replace the car or you get some Band-Aids and you go to the emergency room and you fix that wound. Or you get some help, or you go to physical therapy. It's with them for the rest of their life. She went on to tell me, whenever she sees an alley, she thinks about what happened to her. Or whenever she hears certain noises like an owl, because she kept hearing an owl during the incident, she has PTSD moments. Rape is real, folks. And until we prosecute it, and until we treat it fairly, it's going to keep on happening. We're going to keep wondering, oh, how can we fix this? It's right in front of you. It's not miles down the road. The decision and the way to fix it is right there. And there were rumors that this guy, David the Becker, was known as David the Raper because of what he does to women. You know, I'm known as Hoppy, I'm known as Sloth, and that's because I'm not coordinated and I'm goofy. Can you imagine having the nickname David the Raper? His lawyer says he's glad that Becker can now focus on a productive life without being burdened with the incident. What about the women who are going to go through PTSD and who are going to have a hard life and they're going to need therapy and they might not be able to afford therapy and they're going to feel like they're going to get slut-shamed? How about those women that didn't want the finger play and the other things he did to them when he was forcing it on them while they were sleeping, just trying to rest? How about them for the rest of their lives? Sex might not be the same and they can never trust a man. Oh, poor David. Oh, he has 2 years probation. Call me. 856-49-HOPPY. It's 856-49-HOPPY. I just sit here comically. And I just sit here going, man, how can we fix the problem? And everybody goes, there's got to be a way, you know? There has to be a way to fix it. Folks, it's right in front of you. prosecute these entitled athletes that think they're so macho because they play sports, but they don't have an IQ, and their IQ is the same as how much they can bench, which isn't much because they're overcompensating in life for being a loser and having no backup plan once they graduate high school because they're not going to play in college. If we prosecute these imbeciles the same way we prosecute 40-year-old sex offenders and goofy people like me, if I ever were to do it, which I won't, until we do that, nothing will get fixed, and we will sit here bitching and moaning. Call the show, 856-49-HOPPY. That's 856-49-HOPPY. We will be right back on Hoppy Hour. After this, hang on.
Hoppy Hour. Hoppy Hour. Tweet Hoppy at Ryan Hoppy Radio. Email him, ryan@hoppyradio.com, and give him a nice, sexy Snapchat at Hoppy Radio. Voted as best local podcast in Tampa Bay by the Creative Loafing. You're listening to Hoppy Hour.
All right, before I get into my next topic, I have a few shout-outs in a tweet that I want to mention. Shout out to my guy, Mike Thurman, who said he wants a shout-out. I appreciate you listening. And my guy, Sal Otero, who is a fan of the previous show I was on, and he said I rock. I know I do. It's why I do this show. All right, this next topic, I'm not going to dwell on long. It's not that big of a deal at the end of the day. It's not going to affect the world. But I love the headline. And it's half sarcasm, but you know that they wrote it because it's a slow news day, and it's an easy outlet. It's an easy angle. Plummeting Olympic ratings are Millennials' fault. Huh? Let me explain this to you guys. Let me explain. The reason that the Olympics didn't do as well this year, and nothing against Rio de Janeiro, but it's a city that people don't know that much about, and it has a bad reputation. I know it doesn't deserve its bad reputation. There's great people there. There are things to do, but with everything going on in the world, there just wasn't that much of an angle going into the Olympics. And I feel like because we knew that Michael Phelps was going to break the record, we just knew it in our heart, there is no reason to be in front of the TV. Like, I was at the morning show boot camp. I was at this radio conference in Atlanta. And one guy at the boot camp was like, can you guys turn on the Olympics? And everybody's like, no, socialize. There was no momentum going into this year's Olympics. It has nothing to do with millennials. There were plenty of Generation X or baby boomers that didn't want to watch it. I mean, yes, I was rooting for Team USA. Yeah, I was rooting for Michael Phelps, but I would read about it in our version of the newspaper, which is now Twitter. I would see it the next morning and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Good for Phelps. Oh, that's weird. Ryan Lochte's a piece of dirt. Oh, wow. Usain Bolt's very fast. There's just something about the Olympics that I've never been into. And I was always really into Team USA basketball because I grew up a really big fan of Kobe Bryant. Loved Kobe Bryant because my uncle lives in Los Angeles. And the first year I ever watched the NBA was in 08 when they lost to the Celtics and they blew that 20-point lead. I'm a huge Laker fan. I'm not bandwagon. So in 2008 and 2012, I loved watching Kobe Bryant play. But Kobe not being in it this year and LeBron not being in it, and I know every NBA player. I mean, I watch a lot of NBA, but there was just some reason I didn't want to watch Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler. It just wasn't as exciting this year. So you didn't have any momentum going into the Olympics in any angle. It wasn't the millennials' fault because we Snapchatting and we do the tweeting and we do the Facebooking and we do the gramming. No, it's just nobody cared overall, man. The most you would hear about the Olympics, because I listen to a lot of talk radio in different cities, if it's Mancow or The Bone or Tom Bernard up in Minneapolis or Rizzuto in St. Louis, Woody in Los Angeles, Kevin Kline in San Francisco. My point is, during the day, I check out a lot of different radio shows throughout the country, and there just was no coverage. There was no topics, no angles. The most that came out of it was Ryan Lochte. So when a drunken moron, when a drunken imbecile is the biggest outline out of the Olympics, and he, of course, represents America, I'm sorry. There was nothing going for it. It wasn't because us 20-somethings Don't get it, man. Ugh, what awful journalism. Millennials are causing such serious issues, says Sammy Nichols from Esquire.com. If you go by the news, first, everyone was sure that the non-horniness, because there was an article that said that we have less sex than baby boomers because we like to be safe and not sleep with anybody at Music Fest. And that is the death of the human race. Compared to the 2012 London Olympics viewership was down 17%. That number increased to 25 in the 18 to 49 demographic. Okay, then it wasn't the 18 to 34 where it's millennials. It went into Generation X. So enough of blaming our generation because we don't watch the Olympics. I would rather watch The Sopranos. I'm on a Sopranos binge on HBO Go. And I was watching BoJack Horseman. I love that show. And I'm watching Narcos. And I'm watching classics like C-Lab. It's an on-demand generation. Nobody's going to network TV. Trust me, if the Olympics was on Netflix or Amazon Prime or Hulu and you had a live version of it, people would watch it. But in 2016, network TV is dead and nobody can name 5 new shows from last year. Nobody's tuning into ABC or NBC or CBS, Fox or the CW. We can name the networks, but nobody knows any shows on there. So enough of this, it's the millennials' fault. No, network TV is dead. They're out of ideas. Every show is just a one-name show like Empire. So overall, there is no momentum. In fact, executive officer of NBC Universal, Burke, claimed back in June that his worst Olympics nightmare was that the ratings would be down 20%, which it basically was because it was down 17%. If that happens, my prediction would be millennials have been in a Facebook bubble or a Snapchat bubble, and Olympics have come and they didn't know it. No, sir. No. That doesn't play out like that because, sir, there's this thing called Snapchat News, and it shows you everything going on. And there's something called Twitter News and Facebook News. All the websites that us millennials go on because we're such an ancient race. We're like aliens from planet Mars. You don't know what to think of us. Yeah, we saw that the Olympics were on. There was just no angle. You guys had awful coverage. You guys had awful analysts that just sound like Craig Sager, or they sound like Kevin Harlan or Marv Albert. Nobody has an original voice. There just was nothing going on. It wasn't because of the Snapchatting and the Facebooking and the tweeting. No. We saw that Michael Phelps broke the record on Twitter, and we saw it on Facebook, and we saw the Ryan Lochte's of the world. It's just because you brought nothing fresh and nothing new. And all you showed was swimming and volleyball. Woo! And I loved how they showed a lot of the bikini games where you see hot babes playing volleyball. And let me say this without coming off sexist. But 20 years ago, the ratings were up. And everybody was like, wow, girls in bikinis. Wow. Woo! With all the sex that's going on TV, on sitcoms, on commercials, on adult cartoons, and adult websites, you can just type in porn, and you have plenty of porn online. The internet's like, that's what it's all is. Everything online is porn or sex, basically. With all the exposure we have towards pornography, showing babes and showing really good-looking women play sports isn't enough. You have to have a better angle. Why didn't you show Team USA playing on TV? Just saying. When you show the same coverage over and over and you don't have any live viewing on Snapchatting or Facebooking, you're out of luck, man. And also, you had the water problem, it says, in Rio, and the corruption. It's just, there was nothing really likable about it. Us millennials, because we're so foreign. We saw the issues like the dirty water and the crime and the Ryan Lochte's of the world. So I saw that headline and it made me chuckle that we're being blamed for it, even though ratings were down between 18 to 49. So that goes into Generation X, not just us 20-somethings. When it's down 39%, it's a lot of people's fault. And this is coming from the disgruntled network of NBC, where every year they have the same sitcoms. They keep trying to find the next 30 Rock and the next Office. They haven't been a network that people have cared about since the days of Friends and News Radio and The Cosby Show. Nobody has cared about network TV because they're out of ideas. They're not original, and they're doing the same carbon copy of the hardworking wife who cares about her loaf of a husband, the kids that are spoiled, and the wacky next door neighbor. And then you have the action shows that are about spies or detectives, because we've never seen that before. Wow. If you think about it, The Sopranos really killed network TV. It began to put a damper on it. And then when you guys make 9 Law and Orders and 9 CSI Miamis and shows with laugh tracks, because you got to have the laugh tracks to be funny. And when you have the good shows that get canceled by Fox over the years, and you keep having Seth MacFarlane cartoons that are awful. Sadly, The Simpsons is the one funny show left. It's not laugh out loud funny per se, but it's better than anything on NBC or CBS. So don't come bitching to the millennials that we're not watching your content. Millennials are really underrated when it comes to we want good content. That's why we are watching a show about a depressed horse, BoJack Horseman, or a goofy girl that was underground for 20 years, Kimmy Schmidt. We're watching a show on a drug dealer or a meth head in Breaking Bad. Millennials want creative content. And until people can bring that, the network TV executives can bitch and moan, and you're getting nothing done. Trust me, call the show. 856-49-HOPPY. It's 856-49-HOPPY. All right, here's the deal. We're going to come back, and we're going to wrap everything up. We will talk about Trump. Ugh. He says that Chicago cops aren't doing enough and they need to work harder to prevent the crime. Of course, a rich douchebag knows everything. And the White Sox have a new name for their ballpark. And I'm never the guy that likes to freak out and have the fake outrage, over when there is a crazy new sport team logo or a new jersey or an athlete's new shoe or a new name for a field. But this new name that the White Sox have, is completely awful. Call the show and I will put you on hold. 856-49-HOPPY. It's 856-49-HOPPY. Tweet at me at Ryan Hoppy Radio and get the app in the Google Play and iPhone shop. Search up Hoppy Radio. Hang on.
Happy Hour. Happy Hour. Whoa! Happy Hot Topic! The bouncer is asking for his permission. This is Happy Hour. The outspoken millennial for his generation. You are tuned in to Happy Hour. I mean, it's just words, right?
All right, we're about to wrap everything up and do last call. But speaking of that, the phone lines are open. They're wide open. 856-49-HOPPY. It's 856-49-HOPPY. Because I want to hear from you. I want to get your opinion. I do this show by myself. It's me sitting here, me sweating, talking to myself. I like communicating with other people because I'm very lonely. Tweet at me at Ryan Hoppy Radio and get the Hoppy Radio app. All right. I almost went to the Trump event. He was here in town in Tampa Bay, but it was at 10 a.m. and I didn't feel like dealing with the traffic. And I heard that it was just him showing no passion, and it was a bunch of people just saying racist things. But yeah, back to Trump. It just seems like he's running out of passion. I can't wait for these debates, though, if they go down between him and Clinton. And I don't want anybody going, "You're a Clinton fan. You're a crook. Benghazi, 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 Benghazi." Because that's what the arguments have become. And then it's Trump, racist, 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 build a wall, build a wall. No one knows how to argue. There's points on both sides. But what I'm getting at is people are out of ideas. They both suck. But what I am not a fan of is when a rich 70-year-old man who has had everything in life, He was born into money. I know he's made money, and people can argue that he's lost it via Trump school, and he had his own vodka and his own magazine. He's had ventures that haven't worked, but he's a successful guy. But successful people that are rich like him, that don't have to socialize with people and that have made it in life, don't know about the real world. So when I saw this headline, it made me sick that this is presidential material, potentially. That there's a 50% chance that he could be the next president of this great country. This is from WGNTV.com. Chicago represent. Trump says that Chicago could solve the crime problem in a week if cops got tougher. The dead air was for a reason. What I love about Trump, what cracks me up about this dude is he'll just say things but have no backup plan. And he's supposed to be the next free leader of the world. He just goes, I'm going to build a wall. I'm going to fix the economy. I'm going to make crime go away in Chicago. My wife is hot. I eat fried chicken. He just says things, and it's entertaining to watch because he's an entertainer. He's a guy you see on TV. He's a businessman. He's not a presidential candidate, and I'm not cool with Clinton either. But my point is, you can't just say, fix economy. I mean, you might as well say Brando from the movie Idiocracy. Brando. I mean, it's the same thing. Murders in Chicago are up 50% compared to last year. Trump says the officers are not being tough enough and they don't have the right people in charge. He might have a point about the right people in charge because that scumbag, that loser, that imbecile, that cretin, that out-of-touch moron of a mayor known as Rahm Emanuel seems lost. I'm not saying Mayor Daley knew what he was doing. He was corrupt too. Every Chicago person is very corrupt. That's why it's called the Windy City. It's not because of the weather. It's because it's corrupt, like windy. But my point is, there's just a new scumbag level with Rahm Emanuel. So I do agree with Trump when he says that one of the problems is that they don't have the right people in charge. But he's not saying anything by name. He's not saying the commissioner or Rahm. He's hiding behind words, and he's like, fix it. Come on. It's easy. You're fired. Here's his quote. How? By being much tougher than they are right now. They're right now not tough. I could tell you this very long and quiet, boring thing. All right. But when I was in Chicago, I got to meet a couple of very tough police. I said, how do you prevent this? How do you prevent this? If you were put in charge to a specific person, how would you prevent it? And none of them knew what to say. And one cop said, I would be able to prevent it in 1 week. What a riveting tale, Trump. You were in Chicago and you said, how can we prevent this? And a cop said, I could do it in a week. Do you want a cookie for saying what happened in that tale you just gave us? Wow, riveting, man. How about you don't base your ideas off of a quote that you claimed happened and you actually give an idea because you're a president? The thing is this. It seems like Trump is kind of the 90s shock jock. To me, Trump is the guy where he just spews things and he just says things just to rile people up into being the headlines. He's like, murder, crime, rape, build a wall, Muslims, ban them. When you're at these rallies, because I've watched them on TV, I've watched plenty of coverage. It just seems like it's sort of like a WWE, let's say, protest or a WWE cut. It's like a WWE promo. It's just him saying things and the crowd goes, whoa, wow, wow, man, insane, wow. He just says things and the crowd goes, wow. It's wrestling. It's what it is, man. He did not say what cop would say he could end it in a week because he made it up. I would love for this, Trump. I know there's no way in hell that you're listening to Happy Hour. I know there's no way in hell, but if anybody could relay this message to him, I would love it. You claim you're different than every other candidate. You claim you're relatable, and you claim that you're going to make America great again. Here's what you could do. You could be the president who gets involved and gets his hands dirty. And you could be the president who helps out. And you know how you could do that, Trump? It's not hard. It's not rocket science. All you have to do is get into a cop car, get into a CPD cop car, hang out with the cops for a night, see all the madness that goes on in Chicago every night. Go outside and go, come on, guys, quit fighting. If one cop said that he could fix the crime in a day, in a week, I can too, because I'm Trump and I'm great. I would love to see Trump interact with the demographic, which is African Americans and Hispanics, which according to the news, 97% of them hate him. And he claims that within 5 years, they're going to love him. Begin now, Trump. If you're so great and you're so awesome, begin now by getting on your private jet and go to Chicago, go to Baltimore, Milwaukee, Detroit, Cleveland, Ferguson, where all the crime happens, and make America great again, man. And try to separate and try to fix the crime. But until you do that, man, nothing is going to change. And you're the same phony like Clinton, like Obama, like Bill Clinton, like George H.W. Bush, like Reagan. Every president, every person that runs for anything is a phony. And that's what I'm saying. I got a message from Charles Sanders, who is listening via the Android app. I got a really nice message. He says, Cleveland loves you, bro. I appreciate it. I'm having record numbers recently in Cleveland. I'm having great numbers, and I appreciate the exposure up there. And I see that Avon Lake is listening, and Lakewood, where I used to live. Shout out to Around the Corner and Harry Buffalo for tuning into Happy Hour. I appreciate it. All right. I'm going to end on this. There's not much to say. I'm almost out of breath. But the Chicago White Sox, it's been called Comiskey Park and then U.S. Cellular Field. Now it has a new name. And the last one was cool, but it was a rundown cell service, an awful cell phone service. I used to have it. So I feel like because nobody uses that anymore, and everybody uses Verizon and AT&T, that they wanted to come up with a new name. And it's great. It just represents how nobody cares about the Sox and how they got the worst possible sponsor. Chicago White Sox name their new ballpark Guaranteed Rate Field. It's amazing. Guaranteed Rate Field. Huh? Guaranteed Rate Field. And what I love is everybody, when you look at the WGN TV comments on Facebook, on the fan page, or NBC5 or CBS2, everybody's freaking out. Everybody has the joke. It should be called the Guaranteed The Seats Are Going to Be Empty Field, or the Guaranteed I'll Never Go to a Game Field, or the Guaranteed They're Going to Be Losers Field. Wow, how long did it take you to come up with that joke? What I love is everybody freaks out. It'll be called The Rate, or The Great, because like Guaranteed Rate, you have G as the first word and then rate. There's going to be a nickname like The Cell, like The Great. And the thing is, we're going to move on in a week and not freak out over it. And the other thing that I want to talk about in sports too, before I wrap the show up, what I love is everybody is making fun of James Harden's new shoes. The internet's blowing up. Oh, it's so funny. They're so awful. Here's the thing. He made the shoes awful on purpose. Russell Westbrook dresses awful before games on purpose. Curry made his shoes awful on purpose. Every basketball player since the 2000s, they have made their shoes really cool and awesome. Like LeBron, Melo, Kobe Bryant, Derrick Rose. All those Nikes and Adidas shoes were great. but the new trend to be hip is have ugly shoes. You know they did it on purpose, and you know that the backlash they're receiving online doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, they have a nicer house than you and nicer cars than you, and at the end of the day, it was all a marketing plan. So they're actually smarter than you because they knew that you would fall for it. And you're talking about James Harden's shoes. All right, I know you're sad, and I know you're going to have a hard time tonight because you don't want to deal with the fact that happy hour has now come to an end. But all things come to an end in life, so we got to get through it together. But if we can get through it together, maybe life will be okay.
Shut up!
And if we can all appreciate life, maybe everything will be okay.
Shut up!
I love using that shut up sound effect.
Shut up!
You know, because I'm an idiot.
Shut up!
I'm just kidding, but I do talk a lot.
Shut up!
And I am great.
Shut up!
No, I'm not.
Shut up!
All right. Here's the deal.
Happy hour is about to end, but first, it's time for last call.
Ow. Ow.
All right. My show airs on the Internet Radio Network, IRNbroadcast.com. Look up IRN Broadcast on TuneIn, or if you have an Android, it's IRN Broadcast. It's the Internet Radio Network, brought to you by Mike Peter. I am syndicated, you know, every Monday and every Wednesday at 10 a.m. And they air the best of my show each week. And if you want to hear the show even after Mondays and Wednesdays at 10 a.m. on IRN, get the Hoppy Radio app in the Google Play and iPhone shop. Search up Hoppy Radio, HOPPE Radio, and you can listen anywhere in the world. I don't care if you're in Cleveland or Tampa Bay, Newport Richey, Sarasota, Louisville, Huntington, West Virginia, the ROC in New York, Chicago, Portland, where I get my listens. You can listen anywhere in the world. Call my voicemail and I will play it on air, even if you hate my guts. 856-49-HOPPY. That's 856-49-HOPPY. Check out my new renovated website, RyanHoppyRadio.com. Tweet at me at RyanHoppyRadio. Check out my sponsor, Simply Prepaid of T-Mobile, 727-331-1934. That's 727-331-1934. And they are at 3014 Gulfport Boulevard South in Gulfport. If you go there and ask for a badass deal, they will hook you up. My guy Tony Spinney and his lovely wife, they will hook you up. And it is 5014 Gulfport Boulevard South. I am out of breath. I appreciate you guys listening. I appreciate the support. It means a lot. I will be back on Friday. This has been Happy Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppy, saying peace out.
Happy hour. Happy hour.